me for my voice, but I have never seen anything like it.
Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Welcome to the show. I'm Andrew Zimmel, your host as always. Thanks for checking out the podcast. A lot of great content out right now. Sam OJ coming on the podcast to talk to us a little more about the NFL draft. We'll do the NFC North. My Vikings are included in that, so you're going to want to check that out. But also all the excellent trades that occurred yesterday. We're going to take a moment of silence at the end of every podcast from here on out for the poor Houston sports fans who not only have to root for a bunch of cheaters in the Houston Astros, not only have their Houston Rockets season cut short by this coronavirus, but now the best player on the team is suiting up for the Arizona Cardinals. DeAndre Hopkins gets traded. Real sad day in the city of Houston. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the sports fans at every bar. Well, let me rephrase that. The sports fans in their living rooms because of social distancing really getting torn up because of this. Today we're talking about the NL East. You're probably wondering to yourself, why was this podcast not readily available for me on Monday when it was supposed to be readily available for you? Well, as all good things, the Wi-Fi is so bad where I was trying to upload it, and it just disappeared. And then, of course, when I looked for it later, I couldn't find it, so we had to re-record it. So I'm going to do a shorter version of this podcast because I don't really want to repeat myself a ton, but this was a kick-ass podcast, the original time we recorded. So hopefully I can recreate the magic for you guys. We're going to start with the team that I have decided to adopt in the National League. Before the baseball season ended, before they said no baseball, potentially all the way till May and June, we had a team in the Atlanta Braves who I thought was going to be a dark horse, not only a dark horse, but a slight underdog in the National League to win the National League pennant and play the New York Yankees in the World Series. I was very excited for it because this Braves team is set up to be very good. The win total this year for them, the projected was 90.5 wins. I picked the over because I think this is a 95-win team. And I say that not joking. I think that this is a team that is one or two pieces away in a bullpen and maybe a second starter to going and winning. So they play in the most fun division to watch. When you look at the Mets and the Phillies and Nationals, the Marlins are still trying to figure some stuff out. But the Mets, Phillies, and Nationals are legit teams. And the Braves stand taller than all of them. With the Nationals coming off a World Series, I wrote, it's telling that Vegas thinks the Braves, now the Nationals, are the team to beat in the East. They have a young core captained by Ronaldo Acuna Jr., Ozzie Abilis, as the makings of a dynastic team. Look, there's not been a player as good and as impactful, I think, for the Atlanta Braves since Chipper Jones. That is how big of a deal I think Ronaldo Acuna could be. And I'm going to tell you why. We mentioned this earlier on the AL East, and I've mentioned it about every podcast when we talk about baseball. That's very important to me that you have a young star, a young player who young fans can identify with, who young fans can go to the ballpark, buy the jersey, and root for. And Acuna is that guy. He is about one breakout season away from being put in the same conversation as the Aaron Judges, the Mike Trouts, the Christian Yelich's of the world. And I'm being dead serious when I say that. Pan face, camera one, I'm telling you that this is a guy who is he is a step away from being a superstar in this league. And I promise you, when you watch this team play, when they finally get on the field, you're going to be shocked and amazed if you aren't already on this guy's bandwagon. I said that I don't love the bullpen or rotation. They have a lot of room to grow and develop. Cole Hamels is on the roster now. Cole Hamels, you might remember, the NLCS 2008 MVP. I think he also won the MVP of the World Series that year, too, when the Phillies won it all. Hamels is that starting pitcher who is a little bit over the hill. He's not a guy you're expected to win 10 to 15 games. You're expecting him to win maybe 9 to 11-ish. He's not going to be a guy that you can really rely on anymore. But what he doesn't bring on the ability to throw the ball, he does bring in leadership. And I think that's important for a young team. Even if it's a pitcher who's pitching every fourth or fifth day, being a clubhouse guy, being a guy who can kind of direct and lead young men is important. In a sport that is full of young prospects and young players and guys that are still trying to find their footing in the sport, Cole Hamels, a guy who has been there, who's been to the top of the mountain and raised the trophy, knows what it takes. And that Braves team needs a guy like that. Another rumored player who may or may not make the roster, we didn't find out because spring training, of course, was cut short thanks to this coronavirus. It was Felix Hernandez. King Felix played the majority of his career in Seattle, or I should say all of his career in Seattle as a starting pitcher. He was a great starting pitcher, a Cy Young Award winner. Never found much success in the Northwest because of the team that was built around him. He goes to Atlanta trying to fight for a roster spot. If he makes it, if he is a starting pitcher or even a middle relief pitcher on this Braves team, they're going to be much better. I think that Hernandez still has a little bit left in the tank. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm glad the Yankees didn't gamble on him. I'm glad that the Yankees kind of stayed away from him because he feels like the type of player that they would pay a little bit too much to. And while Cashman's done an incredible job now, and I'm sorry we're talking about the Yankees on an NL East podcast, but the Yankees have done a good job recently of getting guys on pretty good contracts. Cashman's done a pretty good job, but I'm glad that he didn't get Hernandez. I think Hernandez fits better in Atlanta. Moving on to the Marlins. They've had a rocky start with new Hall of Famer Derek Jeter at the helm. He's now not only the part-time owner, but also, I think, the general manager of the team. The sale of the team's greatest assets, you're looking at guys like Giancarlo Stanton, has turned the Marlins into one of the best teams in the sport when you talk about farm systems. When you talk about the developmental league, the Marlins are better than the rest. They have young players. They've made really good picks. They're going to be a team that in the next decade, not this one, not the 2020s, but in the 2030s, they're a team that I think could be knocking at the door, or at least getting closer that way as these seasons continue. They hovered around 500 for most of the season last year and have a young pitching core that needs to get some major league starts and major league wins. Once they do that, once you get a little bit more experience underneath your belt, it's an empirical fact that the more pitches young pitchers throw, the more time they get to practice and play, the better that they develop, the quicker that they become staples of your franchise. So if you get some of these young pitchers some roster time, get some young pitchers on a couple of these road trips, you can expect something going forward. It'll be hard to break in with the Braves and Nationals, I write. They're running the division for the foreseeable future. The Marlins are a few good seasons away from running the division, but I will say this about their manager, Don Mattingly. Don Mattingly, one of the better Yankees of all time. I will say this about Don Mattingly: he is a fun fun manager. Very few fun managers left in baseball. Very few managers that have any name recognition. You're looking at guys around the league. Let's be fair. And you might have a team in your city. You might be able to name the NBA head coach. You're for sure going to be able to name the NFL head coach. The Major League Baseball head coach, you could poll 100 people, maybe 30 of them know who their manager is. And Don Mattingly is a big enough name, a big enough personality, that I think fans in Miami would be able to put him in the same conversation as, say, an Eric Spoelstra. They know who their head coaches are in Miami. There's good sports fans down there. And I think that Don Mattingly fits perfect. He's also 5 wins shy of tying Jack McCann for the most wins in Marlins history. That's something to watch out for. Player to watch, Jorge Alfredo, who is a catcher for the team. He's the perfect catcher for this team right now. He's got all the tools to be one of the better catchers, not only in the division, but also in the league. He's a good locker room guy from all reports. I think he'll be the type of player who can really turn this Marlins franchise around. They're in the right trajectory. They're a team that if a couple of bad seasons rock the ship, I could see the ship capsizing. But at the same time, if they continue on the straight and narrow, they could be a team that when we talk about in 2027, 2028, going into the 2030s, a team on the rise. Let's move on to the Metropolitans, the New York Mets. Their win total this year is projected at 85.5. I'm taking the over. I like the Metropolitans. I like the Mets. However, this is the only problem with said Mets. That they share a city with New York, that's one problem. But also the problem is James Dolan, who's rumored to be interested in buying the team. That is enough of a reason for me to pick the win total over, but at the same time, stay as far away from this team as possible if you're not a Mets fan. James Dolan, everything he touches doesn't turn to gold. It turns to some sort of acrylic gold, something that you'd find at a Dollar General. And I should have said this earlier in the podcast, but these win totals are projected for a 162-game season. Right now, We don't know how many games we're going to get out of baseball. It could be 114, could be 100, could be 95. All that said, this is kind of the general how I feel about the team before the season. It's a season preview type podcast. So when I say that I'm taking the over on 85.5, if they say only play 100 games and the win total is projected for, say, 45, 47, that is kind of in the same ballpark of what I expect. Okay? That I just want to get that out of the way. So let's talk about this team who was rocked by the Astros scandal as well. Another team caught in the stray bullets of Major League Baseball. The Astros scandal took out their their manager, I should say, Carlos Beltran. They've got one of the best baseball rotations, pitching rotations, in the history of the sport. When you look at Jacob deGrom and Noah Syndergaard and Peralso, they've got a good four-man rotation. They had a couple of issues with health. Edwin Diaz is coming back. Hopefully he can kind of figure out himself. They have a very good second baseman. If you didn't listen to the All-Decade podcast where I defended the honor of Robinson Cano, I said he was the best second baseman of the last decade. I know that shook a lot of people to the core. I didn't pick Jose Altuve, the cheating scum that he is. I picked Robinson Cano because I said hitting for power at the second base position is an important spot. He went to Seattle to irrelevancy. He got hit with a PED scandal. That's fine, I guess. That's where the sport is now, where your favorite players are going to continue to get hit with cheating scandals, I guess. But for the decade, I thought that he was a solid player. He never was able to really secure the name recognition he had when he was in New York, winning World Series, singular. Look, Cano going to the Metropolitans, going to the Mets, I think is going to be a very good thing, not only for the sport, where they get one of the more well-known stars back into a city where people actually care about the sport, but you also get him in a situation where I think the Mets, again, the Nationals and Braves clearly are the two best teams. I think the Mets are a very far away third-place team in this division. But to say that I hate their chances would be a lie. I like where this team is. The player to watch for the Mets, after only one season, he's impressed me more than I think any rookie has impressed me in a long time. It's Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso came in and has really taken the mantle of David Wright. If you don't remember David Wright, he was that hard-hitting third baseman for the Mets when the Mets were losing 100 games every season. David Wright brought leadership to the team. He was a everyday player, an all-around good guy from pretty much every account. So when Pete Alonso comes in with his hard hat and his lunch pail and goes to work every day for the team that is the blue-collar team in the city, I think that he envisions and he takes everything that you want from a Mets player and really fills that role. Let's talk about the difference between Pete Alonso and the white-collar, too-good-for-you New York Yankees. All right, Pete Alonso is a blue-collar guy, hard-working. He's the dude that builds the city. He's the guy that makes sure your toilets flush and your lights turn on. Aaron Judge and the New York Yankees are a Wall Street businessman. You can't trust them. You don't trust them. You know that they cheated in that Astros scandal as well as everybody else. But they didn't get caught because they're too good. They're too big to fail. While the Metropolitans, the Mets, are the little brother. They're the ones that you can root. They are the Rocky Balboa of the city. And Pete Alonso envisions that perfectly. Let's move on to the last two teams in the division. You're looking at the Philadelphia Phillies, who underachieved last year going 500. When you sign a whiny brat like Bryce Harper, let's be real, guys, he has been a pain in our side. It was fun the first time to have a moody teenager hit moonshots, but now you're getting a little older, Bryce. You're doing a little bit more of the not running out singles. You're doing a lot more of the showboating. Fans in the city of Philadelphia, if there's one thing that they hate, it's mediocrity. They know that they're not the city of champions. Pittsburgh's that. They know that they have in-state rivalries with that city. But the Philadelphia Phillies are supposed to be the team that is going to win more games than any team in this division. But all of a sudden, the Atlanta Braves have a young core. All of a sudden, the Washington Nationals walk off with a title. And you're left in the dust, Philadelphia. You need to figure out what you did wrong. Well, a good way to rebuild that, a good way to restart that image of Philly baseball, you go hire a former Yankee. You go get my man, Joe Girardi. You go get my man, Joe Girardi. You go bring in former shortstop, Didi Gregorius. And you got a good team here. They're a solid blue chipper type team. I don't think they have enough firepower to win the division. I don't think they have enough pitching to really make a big run at this thing. I think that they're going to be better than 500 this year, but I don't think they make the playoffs. I still like the Nationals and the Braves in this division, but the Philadelphia Phillies are on the right track. And Joe Girardi is the type of manager who's going to get them set on the right path, and he's a perfect manager for a team that is young and has talent and needs a father figure. And I hate that cliche. I hate the coach is like the dad to these players, because they're all grown men. They don't need a dad figure. But I really do think in a sport that has a lot of young players, on a team that needs that type of strong hand leadership, Girardi fits it, and I think he'll be perfect for the Phillies. The defending World Series champions are coming on into this season with a similar lineup they had last year. Last season, they had timely rotation. They had timely hitting, timely pitching. They were able to prove themselves. They played 5 postseason elimination games. They were 12 games under 500 at one point, with an abysmal bullpen that had a 5.68 ERA. But they were able to turn around. They were able to bring back Juan Soto, the fan favorite. Strasburg comes back. They lost Rendon, but I don't know how big of an impact that's going to have on their production offensively. When you bring back Scherzer and Strasburg, your 1-2 punch, I like what they have right there. The bullpen still not great, but I think that they can manage, and I think that they are if not one of the hardest outs in the playoffs. I think that when they get to the playoffs, if they can get to the playoffs, they're going to be a team that's going to be really tough to figure out, to match up with. I like the Nationals, so just to synopsis, I'm taking the Braves to win the division. I'm also taking the Braves to go to the NLCS. I like the Nationals to be the team that comes out of the wild card. They won the World Series of the wild card last year. It's hard to recreate magic. Once magic empties the bottle, it's real hard to refill it. And a team like the Nationals felt like a dynasty run. It felt not so much like a dynasty run, but they were the team of destiny last year. It's going to be real hard to figure that out. It's going to be real hard to recreate that magic. But if there's any team to do it, it would be the Nationals. So that's going to do it for the podcast. We have the NBA All-Decade team that's coming out. We did numbers 67 through 53 on Monday. On Tuesday, we have 66 through 51, some of the better players of the decade. Remember, 83 players made the All-Star game this past decade, so I ranked them 83 to 1. Who had the best decade? Who had the worst decade? Those podcasts are going to be coming out this week. And next week, look out for the 2000s. And then if this coronavirus ever ends, we'll finally do the 90s and 80s as well in the following couple weeks. But the 2010s are this week, so check it out. Those podcasts are a ton of fun to do. A lot of research went into them, so please, if you can, check them out. That's going to do it for the show. Stay safe. The self-containment, the social distance, it's a very good thing. Not only because you can become productive, you can get a online degree if you want, but you also can do some arts and crafts, listen to a very talented young podcaster, myself included. You also can listen to music, watch TV. All those podcasts are going to be coming out later this week as well. Some really cool movie reviews that I did. You're going to want to check it out. I will talk to you guys tomorrow.